Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's get straight to it today. We're looking at those interactions that can really throw you off your game,
hmm
dealing with difficult people, and maybe more importantly, how to stop their negativity from, completely ruining your day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something pretty much everyone experiences, right?
Exactly. We've all been there.
We have. And when we talk about difficult people, based on our sources, we're generally looking at individuals who, well, consistently show challenging behaviors.
Like being overly critical.
Yeah. Or just constantly negative, maybe controlling, sometimes dismissive. It's important to remember, though, their intent isn't always malicious.
Right. But the impact is still there.
Exactly. Often their behavior says more about their own issues, their own internal world, than it does about us.
Okay. So our mission for this deep dive then is what? To equip you, the listener, with some real actionable strategies.
Precisely. Tools you can actually use, like starting today, to navigate these interactions better and, crucially, protect your own well-being.
Great. So where do we kick this off? What's the first step?
Well, a really fundamental piece is setting boundaries.
Okay, boundaries. Makes sense.
Think of them as your personal rules of engagement. They define what's acceptable behavior for you and what's not. They're vital for keeping your mental and emotional balance.
Like drawing a line in the sand, almost. Protects your headspace.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Our sources give a good example. Maybe you have a coworker who's always, finding the negative and everything.
Training.
Right. So a boundary might be deciding, okay, I'm going to limit how much time I spend listening to the complaints or actively trying to steer the conversation to something more positive or, constructive.
That feels practical. You're not trying to change them, just how you interact. Have you seen that sort of thing work effectively?
Oh, definitely. When you're clear
Yeah.
about your boundaries, even just internally at first, it helps prevent difficult people from sort of walking all over your emotional space.
It's about taking back some control.
It is. It's a conscious choice. How much do you engage? On what terms?
Yeah.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Are there places in your life where maybe a firmer boundary could make things feel better?
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought.
Mhm.
Okay, so boundaries are step one. What else do our sources highlight? There's this idea of emotional detachment.
Yes, emotional detachment. Now, that can sound a bit um, cold,
A
maybe,
little bit, yeah.
but it's really not about being uncaring. It's about not taking the difficult person's behavior personally, not letting it define your self-worth.
Okay. So detaching from the impact on you.
Exactly. The core idea, and it's quite powerful, is that often their negativity, their criticism, their difficult behavior, it's usually a reflection of their own struggles, their perspective, their baggage.
Not really about you at all.
Most of the time, no. And realizing that, it can be incredibly liberating. It's like you see their storm clouds brewing, but you don't have to let them rain on your parade.
I like that analogy. It really does shift your perspective. If you can pause and think, okay, this might be their stuff, not mine, it creates a buffer.
It does.
Yeah.
Our sources say this helps you stay calm, stay composed, even when they're trying to stir things up.
So you don't get pulled into their drama.
Precisely. You avoid getting sucked into their emotional vortex, which leads nicely into another strategy, active listening.
Okay, active listening. Now, that seems maybe counterintuitive when someone's being difficult.
It can seem that way, but there's a real logic to it.
All right, tell me more. What's the upside?
Sometimes a big driver behind difficult behavior is just wanting to feel heard, to feel acknowledged.
Ah,
So by really listening, giving them your full attention, maybe nodding, reflecting back what you hear them saying about their feelings, responding thoughtfully,
even if you totally disagree with them.
especially then, you don't have to agree. But by acknowledging their perspective, you can actually lower the tension. It can make the interaction, believe it or not, more positive.
So it's about validating their feeling of being heard, not necessarily validating their point.
You've got it. It makes you wonder, how often do we listen just to reply versus listening to actually understand where someone's coming from?
That's a really good question. Less about winning, more about connecting, maybe.
Something like that. Okay, another technique our sources mention is redirecting the conversation. I find this one quite useful. It's about subtly taking control.
Redirecting, like changing the channel.
Kind of. If someone's stuck on a negative loop, complaining constantly, being overly critical, you can consciously try to steer the chat towards something more positive or neutral or constructive.
Got it. So the example from the material.
Right, like if a friend is always complaining about their job, just nonstop,
We all know someone like that.
probably, You could try shifting the focus. Ask about, say, a hobby they enjoy, or, hey, weren't you looking forward to that concert? Something different.
It's a gentle nudge away from the negativity. Intentional subject changing.
Exactly. So if you feel stuck in that negativity whirlpool, you can try to carefully guide it somewhere else.
But, okay, what if that negativity just feels relentless? Like, redirection isn't enough. That seems like where self-care becomes really crucial.
Oh, absolutely essential.
Mm.
Looking after your own mental and emotional well-being is paramount when you're dealing with difficult interactions regularly.
It's like building up your own resilience.
It is. Our sources talk about things like mindfulness, meditation, getting some exercise, even just scheduling time to relax and recharge. Think of it as reinforcing your own foundation.
Yeah, if your own tank is empty, you're much more likely to get knocked off balance by someone else's bad mood.
Totally. You're just more susceptible. Which brings us to another point that really resonates. Choosing your battles wisely.
Yes. Not everything needs a response.
Not at all. Sometimes, honestly, it's smarter to just let the small stuff go. Focus your energy where it actually matters.
Conserve your energy.
Exactly. By being selective about what you engage with, you save your emotional resources and avoid a whole lot of unnecessary stress. What does that bring up for you, this idea of choosing battles?
It makes me think about differentiating between, like, a real problem that needs addressing versus just background noise, you know?
Yeah.
Someone's minor annoyance that doesn't actually impact me if I don't let it.
That's a great way to put it, protecting your overall positive state.
And linked to that, our sources also stress surrounding yourself with positive influences. This feels like a really natural counterbalance.
It really is. Having that supportive network, friends, family, maybe even certain colleagues, it's like having an emotional buffer zone.
Yeah, they keep you grounded.
They do. They offer support, help you keep perspective, remind you of your strengths, give you encouragement when you're dealing with someone challenging. The environment we create around ourselves makes a huge difference to our resilience.
Definitely. Now, shifting gears slightly, but still related, empathy. Our material brings this up. Trying to understand the difficult person's perspective.
Right. And it's crucial to add, this doesn't mean condoning bad behavior.
Okay, important distinction.
Very. But empathy here means making an effort to see where they might be coming from, what could be driving their behavior.
So, trying to understand their why, even if you don't agree with their what.
Exactly. Doing that can sometimes lessen your own frustration. It might even occasionally lead to a more constructive interaction because you're approaching it with a bit more understanding.
That makes sense. It changes your internal reaction, even if their behavior doesn't change immediately.
Precisely. Now let's talk practical skills. Assertive communication comes up a lot in the sources.
Okay, assertiveness, not aggressiveness.
Key difference. Assertiveness is about expressing your own thoughts, feelings, and needs clearly and respectfully.
Without attacking the other person.
Right. It's crucial for setting those boundaries we talked about earlier. The material gives a good example. If someone keeps interrupting you.
Which is super frustrating.
It is. An assertive response would be something calm but firm, like, excuse me, I'd like to finish my thought before we move on.
Direct, clear, respectful.
Exactly. And part of that is using I statements. Our sources really emphasize this.
Oh, the I feel statements.
They feel less accusatory, right?
Yeah.
So instead of saying, you are always so negative, which immediately puts someone on defense.
Yeah, instant argument starter.
Right. You could say, I feel frustrated, or I feel drained when our conversations focus mainly on negative topics.
It frames it around your experience of their behavior.
Exactly. It's less likely to provoke defensiveness. It makes you think about how we usually voice complaints, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, another piece seems to be just maintaining a positive attitude yourself.
Absolutely. Your own general outlook makes a difference.
Sure.
If you cultivate a more optimistic mindset, you're naturally going to be a bit more resilient when negativity comes your way.
Like having an emotional immune system.
That's a great way to think about it. It boosts your well-being and makes you less vulnerable to getting dragged down.
Okay. And then there's the final resort sometimes, distancing yourself.
Yes. Our sources are realistic about this. Sometimes, despite your best efforts setting boundaries, being assertive, trying empathy, the difficult behavior just doesn't change.
And it's just too damaging.
Right. In those cases, prioritizing your own mental and emotional health might mean creating distance.
And that doesn't have to be some huge confrontation.
Not at all. It could simply mean limiting interactions, being less available, choosing not to engage as deeply. It's an act of self-preservation.
Okay, wow. That's a lot of really solid strategies. Now, the sources also give some, like, practical tips for actually doing these things day to day.
They do. The first one is creating a personal mantra. I really like this one too.
Mantras, like little mental reminders.
Exactly. Short, positive phrases you can repeat to yourself when you're in a tough situation or anticipating one. Examples from the material are things like, I choose to stay positive, or I am in control of my own emotions.
It's like having a little anchor phrase.
It is. It's about conscious self-talk, which can be surprisingly powerful in keeping you grounded.
Makes sense. And mindfulness is another one.
Yes, mindfulness. Being present in the moment, aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
How does that help with difficult people specifically?
It helps you respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting on impulse. You notice you're getting angry or frustrated, but you don't have to act on it immediately. It gives you that crucial pause.
Stay centered. Manage the emotion before it manages you.
Exactly. Another practical tool mentioned is journaling.
Ah, writing it down. I find that really helpful sometimes.
Me too. It's a great way to process what happened in an interaction. You can spot patterns. Maybe a certain person always triggers a specific reaction in you.
So you can see where you need stronger boundaries, maybe.
Precisely.
Oh.
Or identify which coping strategies worked or didn't. It brings clarity.
And finally, the sources do mention seeking professional help.
Yes, and that's important. If you're consistently struggling, feeling overwhelmed by difficult relationships, a therapist or counselor can offer tailored strategies and support.
An objective perspective.
Exactly. Sometimes that outside view is incredibly helpful.
Okay, so to kind of wrap this all up, the main message seems to be that you don't have to just passively accept difficult behavior wrecking your day.
Not at all. You can be proactive by setting boundaries, managing your emotional responses, using assertive communication, taking care of yourself. You can protect your peace.
You can stay in the driver's seat of your own emotions.
That's the core idea. You can't always control others, but you can control your approach, your responses, and how much you let their behavior affect your well-being.
And remember, you absolutely deserve interactions that feel good, or at least neutral. Don't let consistent negativity overshadow the positive things.
Well said.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener. Which of these strategies really jumped out at you today? Is there one that resonates with the challenge you're facing right now? And maybe, just maybe, how could you start putting even just that one strategy into practice, perhaps even today? It's about making that conscious choice about what and who you allow to impact your energy.